The looks of this subdivision as you drove through. The man to thank is Gary Martin. Gary, where's your hand? Raise your hand so they can all see you. He's my business partner in this development.
Get in line, I only have 3 left.
He knows everything to do, and his wife of 40 years, Mina, is here, and that's where a lot of the what to do comes from, right? So, a couple of thank yous before we kick off. Our commissioner here in Burnett County, Jim Luther's not able to attend, but his wife Sarah is here. Sarah, wave your umbrella. And we had great cooperation from day one with our Burnett County representatives. Is Jackie Haynes here?
Jackie, there's illness in her children, so she was not able to come.
So
Sure looking forward.
Jackie Haynes is the 911 address coordinator, and someone asked me, well, how did you ever come up with the name Houdini Way? Well, look, I'm Mark Axford, but I'm married to Trixie Bond. And so this place had to be named after a magician. So once we decided Houdini was the one magician that everyone would recognize the name, the next step was to see if there was already a street named Houdini in Burnett County, and there wasn't. In fact, there wasn't even a Houdini street or way or drive anywhere in Texas.
Wow.
And we said, holy cow, is there a Houdini anywhere in the United States? There must be dozens of them. Wrong. There's only one other active street in America with the word Houdini in it, and it's in Henderson, Nevada. But this one is better, okay? So we named it Houdini, and the rest is history. So we've got some magicians here in the audience today. They're going to tell you some stories about Harry Houdini because he traveled through Texas. A lot of people didn't know this, but it's on the public record, and you're going to learn about it a little bit today. And then we'll have the unveiling after we hear from a few magicians, and at the conclusion, we'll take a ride about 8 miles up the road to the home of Trixie and Mark for a little lunch and refreshment. So I'm now going to turn this over to one of the best magicians in Houston, Scott Wells. See how well he holds that microphone? It's in his blood, right? Take it away, Scott.
Thank you, Mark Axford. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Also, this is a monumental, historic day, not just in Texas, but I think in magic in general. And so I think it's important for some people who are non-magicians, particularly, to know a little bit more about Houdini, who, of course, we even had a stamp that was struck by the U.S. Postal Service by him. So I will tell a little bit about him from a global perspective, and then I'll introduce Kent Cummins, who will tell you more about Houdini's exploits in Texas, actually. So despite claiming that he was born in Appleton, Wisconsin, the magician, escape artist, businessman, aviator, author, and actor popularly known as Harry Houdini was born Eric Weiss, that's Eric with a K, and Weiss with a Z, in Budapest, Hungary, to Rabbi Meir Weiss and Cecilia Steiner on March 24, 1874. As was often the case for immigrants, the spelling of the family name was changed to Weiss with 2 S's, and Eric with a K became Eric with a CH, whose nickname of Airy became Harry. In 1876, Rabbi Weiss immigrated ahead of his family to the United States and eventually secured a position in a synagogue in Appleton, Wisconsin in 1878. Later that same year, Cecilia Weiss, along with their 4 sons Eric, Herman, Nathan, and William, joined Rabbi Weiss in Wisconsin. After losing his position at the synagogue, Rabbi Weiss and his family moved to Milwaukee in 1882, where the family experienced almost constant poverty. In 1887, the family moved to the tenements in New York City. Eric moved around and did a series of odd jobs until meeting Jacob Hyman in 1888. The boys shared an interest in magic, and after reading the memoirs of Robert Houdin, ambassador, author, and conjurer, Eric decided to pursue magic professionally and formed the Brothers Houdini with Hyman in 1891. The name Houdini, obviously, by adding an I to Houdin, or Houdin. The Brothers Houdini performed around New York City in small theaters and dime museums between 1892 and 1894, with occasional engagements in Philadelphia and Chicago, including on the Midway in 1893 Columbia Exposition there in Chicago. I think that's kind of interesting. In spring of 1894, performing solo for a short time as Professor Houdini, then he rebranded the Brothers Houdini with his actual brother Theo, or Dash Weiss, later known professionally as Hardin. The partnership didn't last long as Houdini met Wilhelmina, Beatrice Rayner, known to everyone as Bess, who became his professional and lifelong partner when the two married after only 3 weeks on June 22, 1894. The Houdinis performed with traveling circuses and medicine shows in terrible conditions throughout 1895, and in an effort to secure a regular salary, Houdini became manager of a burlesque troupe called the Gaiety Girls. During the same year, Houdini began a series of handcuff escape publicity stunts at police stations across the Northeast. The next 2 years were grueling for the Houdinis as the Gaiety Girls troupe and other performance companies they performed with folded. The years between 1897 and early 99 proved no better, as the Houdinis did almost anything to earn income, including performing comedy sketches and, ironically, seances. He even attempted to sell his entire magic act and get a regular job. During this time, however, Houdini continued to perform as handcuff escapes and accept challenges and earned the nickname the King of Handcuffs. The Houdini's lucky break came in 1899. After performing at the Palm Garden in St. Paul, Minnesota, Houdini received an offer to join the Keith Orpheum circuit from manager Martin Beck. To promote the show, Houdini continued to perform handcuff escapes at police stations and received great attention in local newspapers. In early 1900, the Houdinis embarked on a European tour arranged by Martin Beck, only to find upon arrival that no bookings had been made. Without Beck's help, Houdini, ever the promoter, was able to secure bookings throughout England, Scotland, and Wales to sold-out shows, many of which broke attendance records. His success continued throughout 1904 in venues throughout Central Europe and Russia. Houdini returned to the United States briefly in 1904, then returned to Europe where he was already an established celebrity. So the Houdini continued performing his illusions, handcuff escapes, and escape acts on land and water throughout the country, and he would in the world continuously for the rest of his life, which was cut short at the age of 52 when he died of peritonitis as a result of a ruptured appendix on October 31st, 1926. Kind of interesting to think that he died when he's 52 years old, which is the number of cards in a deck. Also, he was born 26 years before 1900 and died in 1926 after, so kind of split the deck right in half. So that's just a little bit of a background about Harry Houdini, so you understand a little bit more about him globally. As I said, there are so many more things to talk about him, being the aviator, the first one to fly in Australia, as well as a collector and so many other things. But I'm going to turn this over to my friend Kent Cummins, who is a past president of the Texas Association of Magicians, and also can give you some information about Houdini as he toured in Texas.
All right. Thank you, Scott. Good morning. And one thing you didn't mention is that this Halloween will be the 95th year since his death in 1926. So the 100 years after his death is coming up, possibly within our lifetimes, within our memories. I'm holding a book called Houdini's Texas Tours. Last century, that sounds like so long ago. Last century, people really didn't know that Houdini had even performed in Texas. It wasn't part of the books, the anthologies, the articles in magazines. And my friend Ron Cartledge, a member of the local club, found out when he went to a flea market that, Houdini was he actually was coming to perform in Austin. That's my city. And that started years of research that produced this book just almost 20 years ago. This is actually number 4 of 52 of a special edition, and I'll tell you who this was autographed to in just a moment. But it's Houdini's Texas Tours, 1916 and 1923. It turns out that Houdini did make 2 significant tours throughout Texas, most of the major cities, and the details are in this book, which you probably can't buy, but I saw a copy of it at the main library in Austin, in downtown Austin. And there are always copies showing up on Amazon and on used book sites. So if you're interested in Houdini's Texas Tours, I recommend the book. And there's so much more that could be said, but, he was an absolutely amazing performer, and when he and Bess came to Austin, they performed at the Majestic Theater, which is now called the Paramount. And if you go to the Paramount Theater, you'll see some memorabilia on 1 or 2 of the walls. You'll see a place where supposedly they put a big thing in the ceiling. Other people say, no, he never did that trick, but it doesn't matter. The most important thing is you can buy a Houdini martini. at the Paramount Theater because they're embracing the fact that Texas was there. Not only did he perform there, but he stayed at, around the corner, the Driscoll Hotel. And thereby is another story. I'm going to ask my daughter, Carolyn, to bring me another magazine. I'll trade you the book for the magazine, Carolyn. This was 2009, and it has a nice picture story about a guy named Jim Baldoff. Jim Baldoff, by the way, is the one who got book number 4. That's from Jim's collection. And when Jim and I were born the same year, 1943, and when he was a little kid, he made friends with this old vaudeville performer named Jim Bard, who was an acrobat. And it turns out that Jim and his wife were close friends of Harry and Bess Houdini. And so Jim Bard had a bunch of artifacts and stuff, and when he died, many of those went to this kid magician named Jim Baldoff. And like most of our collections, they spent time in boxes and in closets. And then Jim read, early in this century, Jim read a book about Houdini that's talked about his relationship with Jim Bard. And he thought, Jim Bard, oh my gosh, this stuff might be valuable. And indeed, there was a one-of-a-kind Houdini bust. There were posters. There were all kinds of things. But the most important thing of interest to me is Bess Houdini's stage coat. The coat that Bess Houdini had hand-sewed and wore in one of their European tours. And Bess, when she was through wearing it, gave it to Jim Bard's wife. And Jim Bard wound up with it. And Jim Baldoff wound up with it. Now, sadly, we had a broken wand ceremony for Jim just this year, and so he can't be here. Ron Cartledge, who wrote that book, is in rehab from an illness that he had, so he can't be here. But the thing that most interests me about this is the fact that Jim had a press party in 2009 at the Driscoll Hotel, which every major media in the area attended and wrote up because people still are fascinated by Harry Houdini. And during that press party, I found somebody who could fit in Bess Houdini's stagecoat, and it's my daughter, Carolyn. Carolyn actually wore the same costume that Bess Houdini made and wore, and we performed a Houdini escape as part of the part of the press party. Well, that dress is now in the secret museum of David Copperfield.
Right, at museum.
He bought it at auction, and so all of these stories, Houdini is so connected to this area, and it's about darn time that we had a sign recognizing that.
Thank you, Kent.
And you said the next thing I was going to do was to introduce somebody. Well, but before I do, Dal, where are you?
Over here.
Oh, Dal's got an interesting local Houdini story, local meaning Texas. Tell us real quick.
The Dallas Magic Club was founded chartered in 1924, and Harry Houdini was president of the SAM at the time and on tour again, and he was performing at the Majestic in Dallas, staying at the Fairmont, but he also performed over at the State Fair of Texas, and he hand-delivered our charter that he had signed, our SAM charter, and got pictures, I've got the newspaper articles, and I've got the charter. So if you come to Summer Splash, you can see those things.
Isn't that amazing? Houdini was president of the Society of American Magicians for many years until his death. Now, I have the pleasure...
And Dal also is a past president, national president of the Society of American Magicians as well.
That's true. Something else that you two share. So it's now my pleasure to introduce the next speaker, who happens to be the president of the Society of American Magicians Assembly 206, the Austin Club, and the Texas Association of Magicians, who are having their convention Labor Day weekend, like they've been doing for more than 75 years, and it's going to be in the Austin area again. And so he claims he's Swedish, but he's been in Texas so long now that really he's a Texan. Please help me welcome Bertil Fredstrom.
Thank you. Hey guys, I'm not going to hold a speech. I'm going to do a magic trick. How about that? So my stage name is Blackbird, but as Kent said, that's not my real name. My real name is Bertil, and I come from Sweden. And I'm so happy to be in Texas, because in Sweden, it's really cold. In Sweden, winter starts in October and ends in April. Not like over here, where it starts 8 o'clock in the evening and ends 8 o'clock in the morning. So, because this is the inauguration of the Houdini way, I thought I'll show you an escape from chains and shackles. This is what Houdini was famous for. This is what I will show you. Did anybody bring the shackles? Okay, we'll use mine then. So this is an old style handcuff that Houdini might have used. This is not part of his heritage, but do we have anyone from law enforcement here? Any lawyers? Anybody been in jail? I just need someone to lock me up. What about you, sir? You look like a good, honest citizen. Can you leave the bottle? What's your name? Jay. Hey, Jay, come on stage here. Everybody give Jay a big hand. So, Jay, this is how this is going to work. We have these chains, and I also have a padlock.
Okay.
So, and I have a key right here.
Okay.
So what I want you to do is I want you to lock me up. Actually, do you want to check this first? Close it and make sure it doesn't open easily. It's a good one, right?
It is a good one.
Okay, so let me open it again. And let me remove my watch.
I'll take that.
So this is how we're going to do this. Actually, we're going to have two padlocks because I have two hands. So can you just hold the other one for now?
Okay.
So this is how we're going to do it. You will take the padlock, the first one,
Okay.
approximately in the fourth link. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you do the fourth link, that will put the padlock approximately in the middle of my wrist.
It certainly will.
Yes, and now
Okay.
don't be nice.
Okay, don't be nice.
Okay, that's tight. Okay.
It's on there.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. I'm sorry.
It's tough. It's
It's
good.
one-
Okay,
okay.
good. So to make this a little more interesting, I actually want to ask you to lock my other hand behind my back.
Okay.
That means both hands will be behind my back if you think about it.
Okay. I need to unlock this one first.
Oh yeah, sorry. Can you do it?
Okay. Should I be nice?
No, don't be nice.
I'm going to go down to 3.
Okay.
3 and okay. Okay. I'm sorry.
So I forgot to ask you something.
Yeah.
Do you have a watch with the second hand
I do.
so you can time me?
I
Because I'm
do.
going to try to get out of this in 10 seconds. Now, I'm going to get closer to the audience. I'm going to let you look at this, but I will not let you touch it because if you jank on it, it will hurt me, okay?
Yes.
Does this look good?
Yes.
Let me show the camera. If you have a camera. So, I'm ready whenever you are, okay?
Okay.
Just so they don't think I'm cheating, can you hold on to the keys? Because sometimes they think that I have second keys, okay? You can check it out one more time before we start to make sure they're well. This is hurts, okay?
I like it.
I said don't junk it, okay?
Okay.
So I'm ready when you are. Some people go from 1 to 10, some go from 10 to 1. You decide. As long as it's 10 seconds, I'm ready when you are, okay?
Start now. 1, 2, 3.
That's not
4,
seconds, that's much faster, okay?
8, 9,
There we go. 10.
10.
Yeah, good. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I don't know who is next in the program, but I guess it's ready for the unveiling,
I
right?
think we're ready for the unveiling. Let's get Trixie Bond back up over here. Trixie? Let's give a big hand for Trixie and Gary. Hang on.
Thank you all for coming, and thanks to Mark and Gary for letting us have this memorial to one of the most famous magicians in history, Harry Houdini. And I hope the residents here appreciate and know what they're living on. And it's appropriate that this is legendary estates, and this is a legendary magician. Yeah, pretty cool thing. And thank you all. We're going to wrap this up shortly and come back to the house for a champagne celebration.
Get a map?
Oh, yeah, there's maps in the back of my car for those of you that need it. So take it away, Gary. Here we go. Woo! Okay. And it's just so cool that we could do this right in the heart of Texas. Just 72 miles from where Houdini performed. And I got to see Carolyn's costume just recently in the museum, along with some of other artifacts I saw in Blau, France, from Houdini Museum. Probably feels amazing. I saw what he did to your son-in-law. I like jumped him off.